Hey there. So we have another wine tonight, and tonight's wine during the COVID-19 saga continues is Pieropan 2017 Soave Classico. All right, so I'm excited to taste this wine for a couple of reasons. First is, this has a long history with me as a wine lover and wine professional. I first discovered this wine probably about 20 years ago when I was first starting out in the wine business. I was a young sales rep. I had restaurants, and I also had a handful of really good wine shops, small independent wine shops. And during that time in my career, I was talking to a lot of my restaurant buyers and a lot of the wine shop owners and stuff like that, and I was a sponge. I was learning a lot about wine from all of these people. And I remember at a couple different wine shops and restaurants, I was seeing this wine. Again, this is 20 years ago, but I was seeing a wine called Pieropan Soave Classico. And it slightly blew my mind because even though I knew a little bit about wine, I knew I had generalizations, and Soave was one of those generalizations that you kind of grew up, it was sort of your parents' wine. It was wine from the 70s and 80s and 90s that was such a big sort of mass production type of wine at that time that I think actually even got to a point where it was like the #1 produced white wine in all of Italy. So anyway, I knew it for that, and I didn't know it to be really something of quality and of character. And so after seeing it at a couple like really good accounts, I asked a couple people about it, and I remember one wine shop owner in particular that was like, "You've got to try this wine. You've got to taste this. This is unlike Soave as you know it." This was real Soave, basically, how it was described to me at that time. And the difference was that this was from a small family estate with incredible single vineyard properties in the Verona Hills going, it's basically between Verona, Italy, here's my map again, and then all the way over to Lake Garda, okay? And it's very close to where we tasted the Allegrini Valpolicella last episode. Same general region of Northeast Italy. But within these hills, there's single vineyards sites, and the Pieropan family has been making Soave since basically the late 1800s and making delicious white wines from this region, and they own all these incredible vineyards. So that's really what makes a very good wine is, you know, estate vineyard fruit, family traditions, really, really good quality. And so anyway, at that time, this was basically the first Soave to ever really gain critical praise. This is an exciting time for me as a young wine aficionado to learn about wine, to read a lot of the critics that were talking about wine. Robert Parker was really coming up to fame at that time. And I remember in one of his issues from the Wine Advocate, the Pieropan Soave was literally the first Soave ever to get above 90 points. So a lot of history behind this wine and a lot of stories. Another reason why I wanted to taste this wine actually is because we've been posting these videos and getting some great feedback from people, and one of Heidi's friends asked about any vegan wines. Well, there are vegan wines out there, and actually Pieropan is an example of one. And what a vegan wine is basically, all wines are basically made from fermented grapes. It's made from fruit. But during the process of winemaking, you can do something to sort of clarify the wine, to remove the solids and make it a clear, brightly clear wine. And there is a process in winemaking called fining. You can filter the wine or you can fine the wine. And when you're fining the wine, you use a tasteless and odorless substance to help basically remove all the really tiny and microscopic particles of solids from the wine, so by the time it's bottled, it's very clear. Sometimes the fining products can be animal byproducts, such as egg whites, such as casein, another thing that's a fish byproduct called isinglass. Again, completely harmless, tasteless, odorless, but a product of an animal. So the wine touches something that's related to an animal, even though when you use egg whites and casein, they're vegetarian, they're just not vegan. But the Pieropan family uses something called bentonite, which is not an animal byproduct. It's actually, I'm not exactly sure what it's made from, but it's a clay byproduct and something else, and it is therefore a vegan wine. So this is an example for Heidi's friend, Audra, thank you, totally forgot for a second, that was asking about that. So that's another reason why I wanted to taste this wine. So let's taste it. It is made from 2 different grapes, okay? Just like the Valpolicella as well. The first grape is called...
Dudley wants some.
Dudley wants some. Oh my God. We have a dog, and our dog wears a diaper. Don't ask, don't tell, but it's just something we have to live with, and that is okay. So the first grape is called Garganega, and Garganega is the predominant grape of the Soave region of northeast Italy. This wine is 85% Garganega. Typically you get citrus fruits from that, maybe some complexity such as a nuttiness to it as well. And then the second grape is called Trebbiano di Soave. Trebbiano di Soave is a native grape to this region, not to be confused with another grape in southern Italy in Tuscany called Trebbiano, which, like the Soaves of old, Trebbianos are known to be sort of mass-produced, simple, easy-drinking wine. This Trebbiano di Soave in the Soave region is very different. This is where I talk about wine and I start to think, wow, this is really confusing stuff, and I hope I'm coming off and explaining it well. So I'll stop talking and taste the wine right now. So richness is the first thing I get. It's got bright citrus notes to it from the Garganega, but it's rich and it's a serious white wine. It's got just really delicious layers of fruit in the nose, and also that nuttiness as well. That comes from the earthiness from the wine, from the terroir of the area. You get sort of an almond character to it, just almost just like a little bit of just cream, but no oak to this wine. All right, so I'm gonna taste. Heidi's gonna taste as well. It's delicious.
That's a rule.
Yeah, totally. Delicious. It is bright with tons of citrus and like apricots almost, maybe a little tree fruit, but
clean. It's good.
Very clean, absolutely. And soft on the texture. And they say that comes from the Trebbiano di Soave. Trebbiano di Soave is known to add sort of a textural aspect to the wine versus so much the flavor. The flavor comes from the Garganega. But really, really delicious stuff. So, a couple things about the Pieropan Soave Classico that I absolutely love. It is the true leader of real Soave production, has been for over 100 years, but that really came into play, at least to the international and American consumer, about 20 years ago. And it is still drinking absolutely beautifully. They have some single vineyard bottlings as well to keep an eye out for. Significantly more expensive, but slightly more expensive.
How much is this one?
This one is probably, again, in that $20 range. You know, I'm going to say about anywhere between $18 and $25, depending on where you're shopping, but worth every penny of it. And yeah, you know, and there's one more thing, because I'm going to pour a little bit more wine, because there's one more thing about that I want to do. I mentioned those wine shops. These are the places that I was brought up in. I used to work in a wine shop here in town. And this is how I learned to love wine. This is where I saw sort of the magic and the soul of what a good wine can be. And so I want to raise a glass to a good soul from that period in my life and that part of the business. Dave Brown owned a wine shop here for many years in Richmond, Virginia, and taught a lot of us a lot about wine, and was just a good soul and a good creator of the wine culture that is here in my town. And I think that's something every town has out there, every city has, and that was built by people like Dave Brown in Richmond, Virginia. So let me raise a glass to Dave Brown. He passed away today, and this is to you, Dave. Cheers.
Cheers.